Have we got a mic? Yes, we have a mic. Excellent. You always know when it's been a good day, when the chatter is still going on and you still have a full hall for the end of the conference. So we're here. This is the last part of the day. Thank you for being with us all day. We've got a really good panel to finish with as well. So my job, very briefly, before I do anything else, is to announce the winners of the poll. So if any of you did take a pink ping pong ball and chuck it into one of the buckets this morning, I'm about to let you know how many people had a seamless journey. Apparently, it's a yes. Well, we've had some brilliant conversations about how to transform the North, whether that's the economy, global gateways, social inclusion, or decarbonisation. And we now want to try and bring it all together. And yes, we are going to try the video again. So we will bring that in at the end, we hope. I do apologise for some of the technical issues we've had. But from me, thank you very much for joining us today. I really hope we'll see you all again next year. Watch this space for the date. And I will hand you over to Maria now to lead our last session and to close our conference. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Before I hand over to our main speakers today, I've just got a few words. This morning, the Echo announced the new Cunard liner, the Queen Anne, will be officially named in the city, cementing Liverpool's position as a key port of call in the cruising industry. And on a maritime theme, last year a £26 million deal was signed, which means a brand new Mersey ferry will be built just over the water from here in Birkenhead, with local apprentices set to play a vital role in a new chapter of Merseyside history. In March, Jet2 will start operating from Liverpool John Lennon Airport, and at Bramley Moor Dock, we're building a brand new £500 million stadium, which will be the home of Everton FC. April will see up to 70,000 people descend on Aintree to watch the world's greatest steeplechase, the Grand National. And while we've rather reluctantly, I would say, handed over the keys to Sweden, having hosted the greatest ever Eurovision Song Contest in history, that's a fact, not opinion, we're refusing to totally let go. And we'll be staging the UK's biggest grand final screening party. I could go on. We're a busy, bustling, vibrant city with a lot going on, and our visitor economy is vital to our future prosperity. Elsewhere, we're trying to stop the brain drain by working to secure high-paid jobs in the life sciences, digital and creative industries, amongst others. Like many other northern cities and towns, Liverpool has reinvented itself and is an emerging success story. Like many other northern cities and towns, we have an illustrious past, but we need to act now if we want to ensure an equally bright future for the 16 million people who live in this part of the UK. Because if we don't, we're never going to unlock our potential and close that productivity gap. Liverpool is an amazing, growing international city, but we have huge challenges when it comes to deprivation. Our city is the third most deprived local authority area in the entire country, where people's lives are cut unfairly short by poverty and where too many people are denied opportunities they deserve to help them build a better life. We know what good public transport means. It means someone can get the train to that job interview that could change their life. It means that people can rely on buses to get to college or university and start to build their future. Hopefully the conversations we've had today can continue to help us towards building a vision for public transport that can truly pull people out of poverty and towards a better life. And that's what today is all about. I told you earlier I'm no transport authority, though I have learned so much today, and I'm grateful to all the people who have shared their thoughts and ideas. But as I did say, I do know what worries my readers and the transport woes that trouble my inbox. Here in Liverpool, we are frustrated with the service on our West Coast main line and our often poor connectivity with the capital. We use the delay repay facility far too frequently, and we find jokes about free money distinctly unfunny. And it often takes far too long to get to cities such as Manchester and Newcastle. And as for Hull, you might as well forget it. The last time I sent a report, it was a 10.5-hour round trip. We deserve and we expect better. The scrapping of HS2 beyond Birmingham has been described as the biggest and most damaging U-turn in the history of UK infrastructure, and one which will harm the economic prospects of the North for generations to come. Of course, our readers worry about the impact this decision will have on the Northern Powerhouse rail vision to link up the great cities and towns of the North that we all know is essential to unlocking the potential of this part of the country. Closer to home and more positively, we're justifiably proud of the Mersey Rail network and welcome the 500 million combined authority investment in a new fleet of publicly owned trains, as well as new and upgraded stations on our network. There have been teething problems, but there is definitely light at the end of the tunnel. And our readers welcome the introduction of a flat £2 fare, as well as the announcement our Liverpool City Region buses will be brought back under public control, ending a fragmented free-for-all with private operators running profitable routes and often axing the most essential services which just don't deliver the revenue. I don't want to end what has been a very positive day on a negative note, and I appreciate the commitment, passion and determination of so many of our speakers and people in the room who are working tirelessly to improve our fortunes. But we do need government support to ensure those tasked with connecting the North are held to task and backing in making our ambitions come true. Thank you, and may I welcome to the lectern Transport for the North Chair, Lord McLoughlin.
Well, Marie, ladies and gentlemen, can I first and foremost start by thanking all those people in Transport for the North who've done so much work putting this together. So Katie, to you and your team, James and the rest of the team, a very big thank you indeed. There is no... Yeah. There is no doubt in my mind how vital transport is. And in a way, perhaps we forgot about it a little when, as a country, we were naturally concentrating on fighting the pandemic, because all of a sudden we weren't talking about congestion, we weren't talking about overcrowding, we weren't talking about the transport problems, because basically we closed our transport system down. Still operated, but we weren't able to use it. And I think that we are now starting to realise some of the problems that were there before. And one of the things that I certainly learned as Transport Secretary is when you're dealing with transport, you are rarely dealing with issues or problems that you can sort and get sorted out in the next month, year, or 18 months. Because some of the big transport issues take years to design and then build. Minister, we are really pleased that the Transpennine upgrade is going ahead. It will make a huge difference, but it is going to be 10 years in its operation, operational improvements. We will see some of those improvements along the way, but the whole scheme will take roughly 10 years. And I guarantee, when it's done, we'll be complaining we want more. Because one of the things I also learned as Transport Secretary was no matter how much people can campaign for something, once you delivered it, it was taken for granted, and the next issue was moved on to straight away about what was lacking. But perhaps that's just transport politics. Perhaps it's just politics. I think we've had an incredibly good discussion today, and I think led by the three Metro mayors that we've heard directly from. Mayor Rotherham, Mayor Burnham and Mayor Breslin, have been interesting developments in that 10 years ago those posts did not exist and those voices for the regions did not exist. And we're going to see further development and further Metro mayors come into operation this May, and future devolution deals which will take place beyond that, which are very important indeed. Because that, in a way, doesn't give instant solutions, but it does give somebody the voice to bring it all together. And that, I think, is going to be absolutely vital. Because, as we've heard from some of the contributions today from the floor, transport is complicated. It's not just resting on the cities. It's not just resting on Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds, or Newcastle, but it's those small towns that feed into those cities. And I tend to think it's a bit, somebody said, one of the questions were, are we sacrificing the towns because of the cities? I don't think so. I rather tend to think it's like if the cities are doing well, our towns will do well. If London's doing well, our cities are doing well. If London's doing well and our cities are doing well, the United Kingdom is doing well. And that, I think, is absolutely vital in some of the things that we need to address. So, as Transport for the North, it is about working together. It is about looking across the whole region. And what a region. Sheffield, Cheshire, and then basically up to the Scottish borders and everything inside it. 17 million people, bigger than London and Scotland put together, as has been said earlier today. And diverse, incredibly diverse, from rural parts of Cumbria, rural parts of Yorkshire, to Manchester, to Liverpool, and to Sheffield. So we've got in the strategic transport plan that we will hopefully be adopting next March, in March, we will try to bring together some of those threads, some of the ways forward, some of the ideas that will guide transport policy over the forthcoming years. Not easy, not everybody will agree with everything, but technology is also changing as well. And the technology of how we buy tickets, I think, is going to be one of the greatest challenges we face. I well remember on my first day as Secretary of State for Transport, being briefed because I've suddenly found myself with a debate the following day on the floor of the House of Commons. And I was taken through by officials the way transport ticketing prices were done on the railways. And I looked at them and I said, God, the way we do transport ticket pricing is mad. And this one official looked at me and said, well, you're the Secretary of State. I got to say, I said I'd do something about it. 4 years later, I'd achieved nothing. But there is a problem when you're dealing with a fare box of over £9 billion. And it's not just the Treasury that's the problem, but it is the complications. And I've been shown today various different systems that are in operation in other parts of the world, which would give a better, far more sophisticated ticketing system. But it is a challenge, and I'm glad to see LNER have rolled it out to a degree, and I'll be very interested to see how that experiment pays off in the longer term. I'm very, very excited about possibly being able to buy a ticket and use that ticket 90 minutes beside its time slot rather than feel like a criminal on a train if I'm thinking I've got the wrong train and I've got the wrong time ticket on that particular train. So those are some of the challenges. Those are some of the opportunities. I've got to say, in the 4 years that I had the privilege of being Secretary of State for Transport, I found it really fascinating. One of the challenges when I came back to being Chairman of Transport for the North was I thought I'd sorted all the problems out, only to find that very few of them were sorted out and they were still some of the same challenges. So, Minister, we very much welcome and thank you for your presence here today. I know some tough decisions have been taken, some decisions which I have been very critical of, because I think that part of transport is long-term planning and the necessity to do that. But there is no doubt in my mind that with your previous experience, I remember you lobbying me on a few occasions when you were a Member of Parliament, but not just the lobbying you did when you were a Member of Parliament and I was the Secretary of State, but also the position you had as Chairman of the Transport Select Committee. I remember one of our first meetings not long after you'd become the Minister and said, part of the trouble is, as the Minister for Transport, I've now got to reply to some of those Transport Select Committees that I chaired, and it is a challenge. And I can well imagine that it was a challenge. But we are grateful to you coming today to speak to us and to address us, and then taking some questions a little later on. So without further ado, and to give as much time as I possibly can, I'd like to invite you to address us this afternoon. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, look, thank you very much indeed, Patrick. It's great to be here in Liverpool. I hasten to add, we didn't come up with a whole holdall full of ping pong balls to deposit in, albeit we would have actually added to that as well. But I think in a way that rather sums it up, because everything that I'm committed to every single day is making sure that that's always how things should look, so that you are satisfied with your transport journey. But also every single day we're focused on how do we actually lift each one of those in the no, so that it goes into the yes, because that's what truly matters to you all and to this great region. So it's great to be here, and thank you again to Patrick for the invitation, and a huge thanks to Transport for the North. Your partnership with government really does truly matter, and when you speak, we listen, and Martin makes sure of that. It's something I know from first-hand experience. We really do value everything that you say, do, and contribute. I just want to start with some economic context, if I may. It's been over a year since the Prime Minister set out his economic priorities, and his plan is working. Inflation, which has been the biggest drag on household incomes and business profits, is now more than halved. The economy, predicted to fall into recession in 2023, is now set to grow this year and the year after. And debt, at one point set to exceed 100% of GDP, is now on track to fall, giving the UK greater financial security. And despite ongoing global headwinds, from the Ukraine to the Middle East, it's clear this government, under this Prime Minister, is making the right long-term decisions for our economy and the British people. Now let me talk about HS2 and the Prime Minister's Network North programme. One of the decisions that the Prime Minister made was to cancel HS2 Phase 2 and reallocate those savings to improve journeys for more people in more places more quickly. It marked a radical change in the government's approach to transport. Now I know that some did not agree with this decision, but instead of one line for people travelling to London, our Network North plan will serve hundreds of places and tens of millions of people each day. Since that decision was taken, I've been out across the north speaking to mayors and local leaders and business. And I've been grateful for the constructive nature of those conversations. It's important to me that every penny of HS2 savings from the north is spent well and makes a difference to transport in the north, benefiting more people in more places more quickly than was ever conceivable under the HS2 project in full. So let me set some of this plan out. Network North investments will improve bus services across the north. They will resurface more roads, thanks to the biggest ever increase in funding for local road improvements, and increase capacity and cut journey times along the pinch points that need it. We know that northern commuters are tired of overcrowding, and we're doing something about it. We will upgrade and electrify the Hope Valley line, cutting the journey times and doubling capacity. We will upgrade and electrify lines between Leeds and Bradford. We will build new stations in Bradford and Rotherham. We will expand Northern Powerhouse Rail to include Sheffield, Hull and Bradford. And we will move forward with the £12 billion to improve journeys between Liverpool and Manchester. And let me focus on devolution, because Network North is part of a pattern where since 2010, the government has put more power in local hands. Most of the north is now covered by metro mayors, armed with significant budgets and the heft to use them. So instead of decisions made by ministers in Whitehall, Network North is opening up funding, building up infrastructure, and giving local leaders a say in how to level up the cities and towns that need it the most. And unlike Phase 2 of HS2, we can move at speed. Look at Bradford, where I was, as Tracy mentioned, I believe in the last session, visiting last week. I spoke to leaders there about our £2 billion commitment to fund a new station in their city and the ability to connect it up to Northern Powerhouse Rail. And actually that was a good example, Patrick, of a select committee report I was very happy to respond to with a positive recommendation, because it's one I'm really proud that we're able to do as a government to commit to. And let's look here in Liverpool. When I hear Steve's enthusiasm to create a seamless transport system for the region, this government shares every bit of that enthusiasm. The Secretary of State for Transport has already signed a memorandum of understanding that commits government to work even closer with the city to deliver these plans. And when we talk about Liverpool, we're talking about a city with a rich transport heritage, a port city whose docks remain an important site for drawing in investment, where just down the road, Peel Ports has invested £400 million in constructing Liverpool 2 to make room for the world's largest container vessels. And now that Liverpool's succeeded in its application to become a free port, the region is set to see an estimated £850 million added to the local economy. That's a transformation that will usher in more jobs, more opportunities, more regeneration, and more freight moving in and out of ports. And we're already thinking about the implications of that, because more lorries carrying more freight can lead to congestion. But by doubling rail freight capacity on the Bootle branch with an £8.3 million investment, we can reduce the burden on roads. And as we look ahead to the Freeport zone, a site has already been acquired with plans to develop a new strategic rail freight interchange. Of course, when opportunities begin to flourish in one place, people naturally gravitate towards them. So we're backing the appetite to better connect Liverpool through the City Region Sustainable Transport Settlement, not only with £710 million from an overall pot of £5.7 billion, but with a further £1.6 billion to come in the second round of that settlement, all topped up by £594 million of savings from HS2 Phase 2. That is money for city regions, with spending decisions made by city regions. And taken alongside wider investment from government, the money is there to help local people now. In Knowsley, the Secretary of State was there for the opening of a brand new station at Headbolt Lane. On the Merseyrail network, trials are taking place for advanced battery power solutions so that new rolling stock can thrive in a more sustainable future. New walking and cycling routes will wind across the city region thanks to £37.5 million of levelling up funding. The first new Mersey ferry in more than 60 years has been commissioned, and it will be built in Birkenhead. Bus fares are capped at £2, ensuring people can access the services they need for less. In short, this region benefits from billions of pounds in government investment, but it's the local leaders who determine what's best for their communities. In fact, the government is unleashing a wave of transport projects through ever greater devolution of funding. In the North East, we are improving bus services with £163.5 million through the Bus Service Improvement Plan. In Yorkshire, Tyneside and Teesside, we've worked with Transport for the North, with local leaders and others to ensure that the new East Coast timetable achieves the best possible rail services. The TransPennine route upgrade will form the foundation of Northern Powerhouse Rail, thanks to an £11 billion investment. On the Northumberland line, we're connecting local people with jobs, opportunity, and each other, thanks to government funding. The government is listening to communities across the north, working with local leaders and helping them to deliver on their priorities. And we will continue to do so and ensure that we train our focus on all parts of the north outside the big city regions, from Cumbria to North Yorkshire and Hull to Lancashire. The government will soon announce plans to invest unprecedented sums in 14 rural counties, smaller cities and towns in a new deal for local transport. We will give communities the impetus to tackle their transport needs. And no matter the priority, it will be local councils working with local MPs and held to account by the local electorate who will decide how and where this money is spent. From the conversations I've had ever since I started in this post, I know this development will be welcomed by many in this room. And it's those conversations that have informed my approach as Rail Minister. I understand that government doesn't always know best, that it is mayors, Transport for the North, local leaders who are best placed to make decisions that affect people's lives, that you know what your communities need, and that you know what it takes to get it right. And with increasing government funding, you have the power and the resources to act. So thank you for always engaging with me. Thank you for the time you spend delivering for your communities. We gain so much by working together, and I really hope, and I'm sure we can, continue to keep up that partnership. Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you to the Minister and to Lord McLoughlin. We're now opening up the floor for a Q&A session. Can I remind you, so we can take as many questions as possible, that we keep them brief and that you state your name and where you're from. Thank you.
Okay, who's going to go first then, please? The gentleman down here and then over there. Okay, we got the microphone?
Hello, I guess this is...
Well, we can hear you, don't worry.
I guess this is a question for both of you, really. We were speaking to the Mayor of Greater Manchester before, who said that, he pointed out that it's been 10 years since George Osborne announced plans for a Northern Powerhouse. He said that in that 10 years, rail services and transport services in the North have gone backwards. Is he right?
You go first.
I'm happy to take that. So just in terms of, so for those, hopefully you all heard it, is sort of, okay, in the last 10 years, the Mayor of Greater Manchester was feeling that gone backwards in 10 years, and it's been that time since the announcement for Northern Powerhouse Rail. Look, one of the things I feel we've got to communicate more strongly is the investment that is going in right now. Because when we talk about Northern Powerhouse Rail and under the Network North programme, we talked about bringing in Bradford. We talked about bringing in Sheffield by electrifying up to York and Leeds. And we also talk about bringing Hull in. So we're always talking about doing more. And that was really the vision of getting Bradford into the mix with its new station. But what we don't talk about enough of is actually what's going on right now. Where are the sort of spades in the ground? And that's where the Trans-Pennine route upgrade we need to talk more of in terms of the here and the now. So that work is actually going from Manchester to Stalybridge for the electrification right now. The orders are in for the new trains going for commissioning. Those orders are going in, that were announced for this year. An extra £4 billion to get more freight paths announced right now. And so all of this is actually going on around us. And when you actually meet the people working on it, so if you go to Morley and other parts of where stations, brand new sort of station rebuilds are occurring, longer platforms, so those trains, those much longer trains, can actually come in and carry more people with more resilience because of the engineering work that's going on. You recognise that it's happening right now, but my job as a minister is to convey that to people who don't always see it. And of course, what they do see, and actually this was a conversation we had with the East Coast timetable, where one particular service that had gone east to west, we couldn't utilise that because of the work going on right now. So we need to demonstrate the positives, because people obviously see the disruption. We need to show people why that investment is going to lead to a much better rail for them tomorrow.
I think as well, when somebody says the last 10 years, you have to go back to think what was happening 10 years ago. And I think that was when I gave an instruction to the Department of Transport to override the advice I got and get rid of the pacer trains. And they've gone. So has there been improvement? Yes. Has there been enough improvement? Well, that's for us to decide. But it's a continuous journey. Right, where's the next question? Who else wants to come in? If you just raise your hands. Can't see. Okay, gentleman here. Can you say, as I say, if you just catch you later on. I'm looking over there as well to try and catch everybody.
Hi, Philip Haig from Rail Magazine. Minister, what assurances can you give people that you will protect things like regulated tickets, the long-distance off-peak tickets, and prevent train operators withdrawing them?
Is it easier if I stand? Can you all see me better if I sort of stand for attention? I felt when Patrick did that, it got a better response. So, look, yes, we are determined to ensure that we protect the fares that people need the most. But let me widen that, Philip, because actually Patrick touched on this in terms of fare reform. I fundamentally believe we do need that fare reform. And we also need to see technology being utilised to help people to find an easier sort of journey at their station. So pay as you go, which has been a great way of actually offering the best value ticket to passengers, but also allows us just to focus on one ticket rather than a whole plethora that's there. It's the technology that brings that in rather than the policy. And so last week, it was great to announce the pilot project to actually roll more of these out here in Greater Manchester, and also in the West Midlands, with a design then for the next devolution deal. So when we then talk about Liverpool and North East and what's coming up, to ensure that pay-as-you-go rolls out across the country. Because it's by delivering that technology that you give people the best fare and also the trust and the simplicity, and then that makes the transport journey a little more straightforward. And also you can join the dots. So down in the West Midlands, their Swift card currently works on tram, currently works on bus, doesn't work on the train. Actually, this announcement will actually allow the train network to be linked across as well. So part of the work of rail reform and Great British Railways transition team is to actually look at how we can deliver technology to simplify the fare structure. And it's something that, as Patrick says, has been long looked at. We are now actually delivering via technology.
Next, let me just catch some people from right over the far corner. Yes, you've got a mic, so that's...
I'm Matthew Bentley. I work for West Midlands Trains. Well, there's a couple already for Mr. Merriman. First of all, clearly the decision to cancel the northern leg of HS2 was wrong. He hasn't, Mark Harper and Rishi Sunak haven't looked at the issue, which we're going to need. So first of all, why are you at least not safeguarding the land, so a more future-thinking administration could then build HS2 in years to come? And also, all right, I think that cancelling HS2 was wrong. With view of the fact that it has, this 36 billion, why is around 70% of it gone to roads? Why wasn't all of it gone to rail? And you could reopen so many lines with that.
So, no, it's a question of choices. And the Prime Minister was quite clear. We could carry on doing as we do and seeing a third of the transport budget of the Department for Transport just being swallowed up by HS2, an increasing amount. Or we could actually look at other parts of the country that are not getting that investment, aren't going to get that boost that HS2 would have given to the Northwest. So I absolutely understand the point with regards to the Northwest. But what I could say is if I could take you to Bradford with me, and I'm very happy to do so, and I talked to the team in Bradford that would not have got the £2 billion for the new station, which, by the way, isn't just a lovely transport station. That is an entire regeneration project for that city, one of the youngest cities in the country that would not have seen any benefit directly from HS2 and was actually concerned that it would lose its employers over to Manchester if it didn't get its investment as well. So I said during my speech, it's all about trying to connect more people from more places and faster as well. And I understand, because you shake your head, that you disagree with me, but it comes down to choices. And the Prime Minister set his path out, and that was his choice. You should also sort of recognise that if indeed it is a question of choices, then the opposition have the ability to say that they're going to reverse that. They're not going to take that forward. But they seem to have, in the last iteration from a trip from the Leader of the Opposition to Manchester, have said that they won't continue with it either. In terms of the safeguarding decision, so that was lifted recently. That applies just to the section of 2A. That's not land that's owned by the Secretary of State. That's land which others own. And at the moment, the railway, which we said isn't going to continue, stops them doing things to their land that they want to in terms of development regeneration. So that's been lifted to allow them to do that. And when we are ready, we will have a programme in place of land sale, again, to allow communities to actually get their properties back if they choose to purchase them back themselves, or to actually give them back to others to make use of them. That's the choice that we put out there. It's entirely down to you to disagree. But as I say, if you look at what we're able to do in Bradford, in Hull, in Sheffield, and actually all the devolution that will be given to regions and indeed towns, cities to decide how they want to spend their money, none of that would be available if we'd carried on with HS2.
Okay, we've got time for a couple more questions. So there, I'm just looking to, and then across there, in the middle there.
Paul Haslam, Councillor, North Yorkshire Council. I have one of the poorest areas and sort of one of the more affluent areas across my patch, so I have a combination of people. I love the £2 bus fare, but recently I've lost the bus service in my deprived area. And when I went to see the bus company all about this, they said, well, the £2 fare works for a Harrogate to Leeds bus, which is what, 16 miles, but there's no subsidy for the fare, which is also £2 from where I live to the centre of Harrogate, which is 1.5 miles. Do you think you could just look at whether you can do something for the inter-urban rather than the intra-urban fares, please?
So, yeah, of course, I'll take that away as feedback. And in terms of the bus service improvement plans that were put in place, again, it was another, looking back at my former role, chairing the select committee, we're a real passion as a committee for bus and the fact that it was just declining. And we had to do something new. And to have the bus service improvement plans, rather than just looking at subsidising the existing, but actually rewarding innovation. So the hail and rides and some of the other, and looking at the routes all over again. Why isn't bus working right now? And I think that improvement plan gave the ability to do that. And then often it comes down to patronage. So if we haven't got the numbers on there, then it's very hard, and that local leaders find this, to actually make the case to continue to invest in buses. And I really feel that £2 to get around scheme works really well. It's been really positively received, and that's why we've extended it. And the issue with bus, like, I'm so passionate about rail, I can talk about rail all day long. I love it. It's my job. But I would also have to recognise that more people use the bus than any other form of public transport put together. And also particularly for those that may not have the best of earnings, they tend to rely on the bus. So actually that's a complete life changer. And what I want to do now is to see more people talk up bus off the back of the £2 to get around. And then we can actually put more routes on it with the confidence that you, local leaders, those who fund it, will actually have in investing in bus.
Okay, gentleman over there. Checking anybody over that side. I think we've got time for one more question. So, lady on the front there.
Hiya, my name's Jude. I'm from Sheffield. I actually work in community transport, but I'm also a young person. I'm 19 years old. I use the train every day. One question I have, obviously being from Sheffield, one thing I would love to see with the cancellation of HS2, this new allocation of funds, what I would love to see is a commitment to electrify the Midland Main Line up to Sheffield. I think that's something that's really, I've heard a lot of radio silence. There's been radio silence on. Obviously, it's being extended now from Kettering to Wigston, but I'd really quite like to see it all the way up to Sheffield. We've got bimodal trains in the form of new Auroras that have been ordered, that are being built, in the north, which is fantastic. But, we really need that connection between the north and the Midlands for a variety of reasons. For education, I know a lot of people who use that line to get about for studying. And I think to have those CO2 emissions massively reduced and also have Sheffield Station become a place that people feel able to go in. I'm asthmatic. I really struggle there, but I get trains there all the time. With all the diesel trains being there, it's quite difficult. So I'd like to either hear a commitment as to whether, during your tenure you're going to commit to electrifying the Midland Main Line, or, if not, please tell me that, because, I'd like to know.
Jude, I can make it much easier than that. Yes, we're committed to it. Actually, the reason why it wasn't in the Network North document is because we'd already committed to it, and we're doing it. As you say, it's actually started right all the way up to Sheffield. Okay, just to give you that commitment. It's in our next. So basically, with this pipeline, we're delivering, as you say, around the Kettering part, and then we'll continue to tranche it up to go up to Sheffield. So look, our commitment is we will get it delivered, and that commitment is there. And also, let me give you a commitment on top of that. So again, we focus on the Network North side of things, but there's three key parts that are going on right now. One is the electrification of the Midlands Main Line up to Sheffield. We're committed to doing that. We're doing it right now. The other is the Trans-Pennine route upgrade. We're committed to it. We're doing it right now. And then the other third part, which doesn't gets forgotten about, is East Coast. The £3.5 billion to deliver the paths needed around North Allerton area as well. We're committed to doing that, and that will be going through as well. So those three were always commitments that we actually had. I recognise challenge for me is to actually draw that together, because as we talk about the Prime Minister's Network North programme, and that it wasn't a question of recycling any other commitments, we haven't talked up enough about those particular challenges. But the other thing we did talk about with Sheffield for Network North is the electrification that will go from Sheffield to Manchester and also Sheffield to Leeds, bringing it into NPR, which is hugely important. And there's a disused station that I went and had a look around with your council leader, Sheffield Victoria, I think it is. So the aim for us with the Restoring Your Railway project is to actually tie that project in to potentially looking to see what we can do to open that station up again as well. So there's a lot of thinking going on about how we can make sure that the programme that we're launching actually itself can just do different and new things, which many communities have fought for so long to do. This, to me, is my opportunity. And it comes back to the last point about disagreeing, because actually none of the major parties are actually talking about doing both. The question is, we've set our stall out, we've said this is what we're going to do. You may not agree with the decision, but challenge me and press me to make sure we then actually follow through on it. Because, as I say, together, we can actually make sure that we deliver all of these programs. So I welcome the challenge. I welcome the, are you going to get it done? I welcome saying to you, yes, I am, so you can hold it to me. And then what I ask for in return is if you represent your local councils, if you represent the supply chain, if you represent those that sort of work in industry, then join with me together and actually make it happen. Because if we have negativity, we won't make it happen. If we have positivity and a can-do approach, and I'll hold you, Minister, to account, and I'll work with you to make sure it happens, but if you don't, then I'll hold you to that as well. Then I welcome that challenge, because together we can put the wall down and make all this stuff happen.
The challenge is telling us when. That's the main challenge, though. The challenge is telling us when it will happen.
Look, I haven't got an exact date off the top of my head as to when it can occur with the electrification, as to when we'll actually complete it. But actually part of the challenge, I'll tell you, is when you gave me quite a long list of would I do that, and I stand straight up and say, yes, we're committed to it, because it's already something that we've said we'll do and we'll complete. So I'm absolutely committed to do that. I can't give an exact date as to when we will actually finalise it, but the work is going on right now, and it happens in stages until it ends in Sheffield.
Okay, the final question then, and then I'll hand back over to Maria at the front there.
Am I on? Anna Jane Hunter from Winder Phillips Associates. Sorry to ask you about another date that you don't know the answer to, but the Williams review is now 5, approaching 6 years old, and we don't look like we're going to get GBR anytime soon, but we keep being told that we should get on with it regardless of legislation. I just would really like a practical example or a tangible example of something that we in the rail industry should be getting on with whilst we wait for potential legislation.
Well, actually, I can come back in terms of getting on with, because in the King's speech, I think page 37, was listed the announcement that rail reform, the bill, will be published and will get its pre-legislative scrutiny. So what you will then be able to get on with is actually responding to that sort of call for evidence. And I hope actually everyone, no matter what your political persuasion is, getting together to support the concept of integrating track and train and setting up Great British Railways so that it can properly link everything together. So we would be looking to publish that bill, when I say soon, I mean in this season. And then the Bill Committee, the Public Scrutiny Bill Committee by Parliament, which has agreed to take on this role, will then get on with scrutinising it and will then take evidence. And I assume that you will all put that evidence in. And my hope is that we can all get behind this. As it's a classic thing in Parliament, that if, with something like an 11-clause bill, if we turn it into an absolute sort of larger beast, then it's very difficult to get it delivered. But in terms then of the getting on with the change organisation project, which is key to this, I recognise that I can talk and say the legislation is a very small part of Great British Rail. It's actually the change management programme, which is the biggest part. But until people see a stake in the ground that the legislation is going to occur because it's starting its journey in Parliament, which it's about to do, then it's very difficult to get people whose jobs may be transferring from the Department for Transport to Great British Railways to actually believe this is going to happen and to actually be part of that change programme. So to me, you've got to do the two in tandem, and that's what's happening right now. So I'm really excited about the fact that we are now on that journey. I hope you'll all get behind it, and when that call to evidence comes up, yes, challenge it for that committee to look at it. It'll be cross-party committee. But perhaps also just say, we've got to make this happen, and we've got to turn that scrutiny into legislation. And then I'll then be getting on with the industry change programme, which, as I say, will be taking me through this year. And then we can build Derby up, and indeed the regions, so that they become the integrated heart of the railway. And I'm doing and talking about it less, because those who are running and in charge of the railways have taken on more responsibility from me and the Secretary of State.
So I'd just like to thank all of you for your questions and for your comprehensive answers as well. It's much appreciated. So as you probably know, Liverpool's quite a feisty and determined city, and we don't often take no for an answer. So with that in mind, can we try that video one more time, please?
Welcome to Liverpool and welcome to the Liverpool City region. Everybody will know Liverpool. It's a historic city, and it's got, you know, a wonderful history of music, culture. So we've got a fantastic past, but we've got an even better future. My name's Steve Rotherham. I'm the Metro Mayor of the Liverpool City region. The big headlines on transport are always around that we need to get modal shift, we need more people out of cars, and that will help, of course, air quality, and it will help the environment, and it'll help us to achieve our net zero ambitions. And all of that is really pertinent and true and a priority for us. But alongside that, what public transport does, it doesn't just connect people to places, it connects people to opportunity. We've already invested ourselves £500 million in the most sophisticated and accessible train fleet in the whole of the country, and they're on our tracks now. We're looking to take our buses back into public control, and so we want to re-regulate the buses in the Liverpool City region. So we want to improve transport connectivity across the whole north. We're hoping that we'll be able to work with the future government so that we can get a transport link west to east that will be as good as anything that we've seen north to south. What Transport for the North does is, whilst we all speak with many different accents across the whole corridor, we can speak with one voice when we come together, and that's the beauty of Transport for the North. I'm certain that some of the schemes that we as a body have been supporting, and some of the options that we've chosen for connectivity, they could really help everybody in the whole country.
I know Mayor Rotherham will be delighted to hear he had the final word today. Thank you, Transport for the North, for bringing your 2024 conference to Liverpool this year. It's been an honour to partner with you and to be involved. Despite the many challenges we face, today showed a will and determination to overcome our problems, and working together we can ensure the north of England one day will realise its ambitions to become a true powerhouse. May you all have a safe and positive ping pong ball journey home. Thank you.